Jesse's already excited. Ooh. Friday show.
Friday.
Live from your ESG graphing calculator. That was for you, Ari. I feel like you would have liked a graphing calculator.
She used it yesterday.
See? It's a Business Pants Friday show here at October 6th Studios, featuring some of your favorites. Ari, the Data Queen. Jesse, the Money Whisperer.
Woohoo!
And you.
On today's weekly wrap-up Friday show, CEOs with big curly hair look like criminals. An Uber killer has arrived with actual employees. And rich people continue to lie about stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Big curly hair, huh? I take offense.
I do too, actually. I'm very disturbed by this, considering most of my life has been having big, dumb, curly hair.
Same.
You guys ready for this? You want to just do this?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna get us in there. First I'll do a little of this. Okay. That's the best I can do. Here,
Really
story of the week.
Those new ones.
I'm just happy to have the opportunity not to play the normal one that Matt plays with the whoopee cushion.
Fair enough.
Here we go. Story of the week. For the week of, what is this week? The week of October 2nd. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Holy cow, it's October.
Here we are on a Friday, October. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, story of the week. The first one. The trial of Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of collapsed crypto exchange FTX, started on Tuesday. Prosecutors allege that SBF stole billions of dollars from FTX customers, saying that they moved money to a crypto trading firm called Alameda Research, which he founded and that was run by his girlfriend, Caroline Ellison. Prosecutors said that they diverted this money by having users deposit funds in bank accounts controlled by his girlfriend and through code written on FTX that allowed Alameda to borrow tens of billions of dollars. Alameda being that crypto trading firm that he created.
I hear the word girlfriend a lot.
Okay, here's why I'm doing that.
Come on.
Because this is like the most bizarre glass cliff CEO scenario that we've come across recently. Prosecutors are literally trying to blame Caroline Ellison for FTX's collapse during opening statements, which is absolutely
ridiculous.
Right? We're talking about a company that he founded. He also founded Alameda Research. It's just nonsense. I mean, it's just craziness.
No one's gonna buy this, right? Like, they can't possibly buy this.
I hope not. And here's why I talked about a big curly hair, which is something that I often fashion. According to the Wall Street Journal, they describe Sam Bankman-Fried, with a mop top of unruly curls and a penchant for shorts and T-shirts. So that's how they describe him, which, it gets me down so many different paths of kind of anger here. First of all, I've been dealing with this all my life. Like, if you don't have normal white skin, normal short straight hair, you wear normal pants, right? Like, you're an outlier, and therefore you're bad, or you're not good enough, or you might be a criminal. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that what did SBF do before the trial? He cut his hair short.
I haven't seen a picture. I have to Google a picture.
I just find it to be,
They're using mop as an insult here, right?
Yes, the whole thing is just, I find a little bit, I know Wall Street Journal is very much
subconscious bias, I guess.
Smack in the mainstream. Yes, exactly. So that's the first story of the week, trial of SBF. Second big story, 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers have gone on strike, the largest healthcare strike in U.S. history, they think. And on top of that, in a recent poll out of Reuters, this is surprising in a lot of ways. Hopefully good news here. 58% of respondents said they supported the strike. And the reason why is that even Republicans are starting, right? Like, this is the shocking part, are starting to support unions and strikes. Like, it's incredible.
I love this though.
Yes,
This is great.
right? I mean, are we
Yeah.
on the dawn of a whole new labor movement? I mean, is something happening?
Do we
Are the
know
party
why?
platforms going to switch again? Are they going to
No.
flip again?
That's not.
Are we going to be Republicans by the end of the decade?
I mean, speak for
I mean,
yourself.
Lincoln was a Republican. That's what every Republican will tell you.
Yeah, they like to say that. Yeah,
Yeah. No, this is wonderful.
Jesse, we cut
Yeah.
you off.
I was just wondering, do we know why the sudden change? Like, why the support all of a
Yeah.
sudden?
I think there's like a confluence of maybe there's like a confluence of anger going on in America,
Okay.
right? Because typically the Republicans were the party of the elites and the CEOs, but now there's a lot of the MAGA types in the
Bud
Republican
Light
Party
Republicans.
are being convinced that CEOs represent, the elites and the liberals, and so I don't know. I think there's a lot of confusion in general, but I'm kind of thrilled that the confusion is working, at least in this instance. Like, at least they're angry at the CEOs and not like typically they would get. I don't even know why Republicans used to be mad at unions, right? Like, I don't even know how they got convinced to hate them in the first place.
Business.
They disrupt America, right? That's what Reagan would tell you.
Businessmen.
Anti-capitalistic.
And when you became a businessman, the unions will come for you.
right.
You working class person.
I mean, I will say I was raised in a heavy union town in Maine. The number one business, really the only business in town, was a paper mill, and it was a very strong union town that was highly Democratic. It was like 80% of people voted for Democrats. 20, 30 years later, that has completely shifted. The union has been systematically broken down. But that town now pretty much is a MAGA town voting for Republicans, and so it worked. They broke their souls. Anyway, that's the second story of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Third story is one that maybe only interests me. This is out of the New York Times. The disruptive power of weight loss drugs is being felt beyond pharma. The reason why I picked this story is there's another story that features Walmart talking about how the company has seen a slight change in food purchasing habits of people taking Ozempic. So they are actually looking at the data of people they know are taking these weight loss drugs, and they are seeing those people buy less food.
How I saw this headline and was intrigued also. This is
Walmart
intriguing to me.
has a pharmacy.
Yes, among other
Yeah,
things,
but
access to data.
It's right, but it's not over the counter, right?
Yeah, but Ari's right.
Ozempic.
Ari's right. They
Yeah.
have in-store
They
pharmacies, don't they?
cross-reference. Yep.
So how are they're like, what are they using? Like, how are they tracking these people
They're
over the
literally
long term?
they're literally tracking their grocery purchases. They're looking they're comparing.
Why? Like, if they have, why does Walmart have like one of those cards, like a
I'm sure
grocery
they have their
card?
ways.
Why they're tracking it is that they're seeing overall that the money they're making through normal groceries is shading down, and I think part of it is they're wondering why.
I just don't get how. I don't know. I was like, how can they tell this already? Because this is a fairly new phenomenon, like Ozempic and Wegovy. Like, we've been hearing about it this year, but how are they getting this data that can suggest correlation already?
Well, it's their data, and they're saying that it's slightly lower, like they're buying slightly less food, representing slightly less calories, but this is their own data. That's how they're getting it.
Does this mean that they're going to stock their shelves differently?
I don't know, but now they're saying there's going to be the junk food companies are going to be at war with the weight loss drug companies, and I find the whole thing to be absolutely fascinating and riveting, despite the fact that I'm angry because I have spent my whole life dealing with like having to try to find willpower to not eat everything I want to eat because I want to eat everything constantly.
Croissant.
Yes, but now there's a drug to take care of it. But again, there have not been long-term health studies on this drug though. So
wouldn't you think that people taking the drug would be like, "Woohoo! I can eat whatever I want now"?
No, it like literally makes you not hungry.
Exactly.
It makes you
Worse.
feel kind of nauseous.
Even
yeah.
yes, yeah. Yeah, it sounds absolutely disgusting.
Okay. Yeah, it's not good for people that don't have diabetes. It's not healthy. But
although you say that, Jesse, and I want to rip apart this drug, but there are so many health complications to being obese, though. No, I mean, just losing that weight alone is a good start.
Sure, I'm not saying that like it shouldn't be used to drop like a quick 10, 15, 20 like if you're obese, but there's been no long-term studies, and from what I've heard about scientists and like people in the wellness industry talking about it and like breaking down how it works, it just doesn't, it messes with your insulin resistance. So then when you get off of it, there's been a lot of like rebounding, and then you're less likely that your body can tolerate these calories and carb heavy foods, which are inherently bad anyways. So I don't know. I'm scared.
Not to mention,
and the fact that the junk food industry wants to double down and fight, like if there's going to be more advertising and more promotion of shit food, that scares me too.
What a dystopian war. I like it.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
I love that you picked this obscure thing for Story of the Week.
The fourth story of the week, unfortunately, is not so obscure. It's something we've been hearing a lot of recently, and that is just horrible executive behavior, really. I mean, that's the only way I can think of it. And these, very specifically a certain type of horrible specific behavior. But I have 3 news stories that came out in the last couple of days. The first being Abercrombie and Fitch says it's appalled by allegations against former CEO Mike Jeffries. It begins its own internal investigation. It turns out that there was the BBC had a story where at least 8 men were alleging that Jeffries and his partner that these people were exploited the men were exploited for sex.
Wow.
And let me give you a little background here, because this is the shocking part of it to me. The original story from 2014 is that Mike Jeffries abruptly announced his retirement. Okay. But before that, the CEO, Jeffries, had become a lightning rod for controversy. And the big one was that in 2006, he said that the brand's clothes were more for cool and good-looking people. He also drew criticism from consumers and youth advocacy groups who blasted the brand's marketing tactics under his reign for featuring scantily clad teen models in its advertising, and often having shirtless male employees greeting customers to its stores.
Oh my God!
And let me just say that he apologized for all this and changed all this, but yet he kept his job. He's kept happening. In 2002, the company pulled controversial racist T-shirts. One T-shirt showed Chinese laundry workers with conical hats and the phrase "Wong Brothers Laundry Service. 2 Wongs can make it white."
Wow.
I mean, that's just so crazy. And then more of this. In 2003, they got into trouble for putting out catalogs, some of which featured nude young adult models and sexually suggestive poses. And finally, in 2004, the company agreed to pay $40 million to settle a class action lawsuit that alleged the company engaged in workplace discrimination by promoting white workers ahead of black, Hispanic, and Asian employees. So all this was going on under his tenure. I don't know why they characterize him. Yeah, now they're appalled, and I don't know why they characterize him as leaving the CEO job as being abrupt. I mean, Jesus. I mean,
but anyway, he's been repeating the cool and good-looking, for the brand for just those people far more recently than 2006.
Well, he stepped down in 2014.
Yeah. But I'm saying he kept saying that over and over
yes,
again.
Yes. And again, the reason why I bring this up is maybe I'm trying to make a parallel to Elon Musk. I don't know what I'm trying to do, but the point being is that, the more of these horrendous stories that you accrue as a leader, you have to start seeing them as being significant, right? They mean something ultimately.
Right.
Okay. The second horrendous story, staying in the same category here, is that, and this is a story we covered a lot back in the day, 5 former Ubisoft executives were reportedly arrested following a year-long sexual assault and harassment investigation within the company. They were just arrested in France yesterday, I believe.
arrested. Isn't that wonderful?
Arrested.
You don't hear that very often.
Yesterday and today.
I give credit to France here because I know France is going through a lot of problems with domestic violence, and they're trying to take a lot of these things seriously. So maybe this is part of it, part of the new initiative. But this includes former chief creative officer and a former VP of editorial and creative services. So this, let me remind people that these allegations emerged in 2020 against multiple Ubisoft departments and studios. And the only thing really that happened was that Ubisoft, the company, committed to making major changes following the allegations. The CEO publicly apologized about 37 different times. They fired a few people, but that's about it. There were reports after that he promised these changes that Ubisoft employees claimed that nothing has changed. And I looked at the Ubisoft board. The heinous thing about this company is that since these scandals broke in 2020, only 2 directors stepped down. Both were women.
Oh my God!
Yeah, of course.
Who had nothing to do with any of this, and that this company this is a very unusual in our database, Ari. I'm sure you can attest to. This company is dominated by 5 brothers.
Yeah.
The CEO and 4 of his brothers, that's Yves Guillemot, that's the CEO, and 4 of his brothers dominate this company, dominate the board. They control 80% of the influence, which means that at this company,
nothing's going to get done.
Yeah, women represent 43% of the actual bodies on the board, but only 16% of actual influence. Yeah. So it's again, like, these things are meaningful. You know, I mean, I don't know if we have a gender power gap so big, but we should take an extra look at these companies because it's right. I mean, something bad. It could be a red flag for something bad.
That should already set off all the alarms.
Right. So that's the second bad thing. And the third bad thing that just happened yesterday is that English actress Julia Ormond sued convicted sex offender Harvey Weinstein of sexual battery and accused the creative artists agency Disney and Miramax of enabling Weinstein's sexual misconduct. The lawsuit said that the men at CAA who represented Ormond knew about Weinstein. So did his employees at Miramax and Disney. And brazenly, none of these prominent companies warned her that Weinstein had a history of assaulting women because he was too important, too powerful, and made them too much money. Not that it really matters to the story, but my first job in New York City was in the Tribeca Film Center, which is the building where Miramax was, where Harvey Weinstein worked. Oh. And 2 doors down was the office of Julia Ormond. And
wow.
And I can tell you at the time that I started that job in 1995. I can tell you at the time that the entire building, that was not just Miramax. Miramax was 2 out of 7 floors. The entire building knew about this asshole. I mean, this is like a known thing. You know, again, this is like 20 years before the Me Too movement. But it was if we knew, and you know, we were regular schmucks. If we knew what was going on, then clearly the companies knew, the executives knew, the shareholders knew, everybody knew. So. This is like just an abhorrent pattern of behavior that was let happen for years. So I wish her well in that lawsuit. Anyway, those are my
interesting though. Like for Abercrombie and Fitch, at least like mid 2000s, early 2000s, super high sales, right? And they started declining a little bit. And in 2014, when this dude that there's been so much complaint of steps down is when the company is not doing so well, right? So as long as you're making money, no one's going to look. No one's going to care. Right?
Yeah, there was some...
Is that what this is showing?
Yeah, I think it is. And there was something about that business model with like shirtless teenage boys.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I think our culture liked for a while. It flourished. And then you're right. As it kind of fell out of favor in general, the company suffered. And you're right. It was after several... down quarters is when he quote unquote abruptly resigned. So you're right. Just like with Harvey, power, money, all that, that's what keeps the behavior going.
Right.
And the same thing can be said at Ubisoft, which is one of the most powerful video game makers on the planet. And the reason why those brothers are allowed to keep going is that they make games that make a ton of money. There you go. So here are my big 4 stories: SBF trial, strike at Kaiser Permanente, as Ari put it, a dystopian war between weight loss drugs and basically like food sellers, and then more abhorrent executive behavior. That's what I got.
I love that nowhere here is the Speaker of the House being ousted, a.k.a. the CEO of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, well, I couldn't really wedge it in here, and I don't really care because the new Speaker is going to be just as horrible as the old Speaker, so I don't really care.
All right, let's see. Oh, gosh. I don't know why I like SBF's haircut so much.
You like the haircut?
No, I don't like the haircut. I like all the attention on the haircut.
You like the attention, but it's not the kind of attention I appreciate.
Yeah, it's the wrong type of attention, but I'm going to go with that one.
Okay, SBF trial. I got to say, 2 of these stories really hit home for me because not only did it was my office 2 doors down from Julia, but my college essay was actually, believe it or not, about my big hair. The whole essay was about my hair and how people judge me just for having big hair. Yeah, we just found my essay. Right. So if you want me to share it with the world,
Wall Street Journal is validating your feelings right here.
I know it hasn't gone away. Okay, that's your vote. Jesse, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with SBF trial.
All right, let's do it. SBF is the story of.
I really thought she was gonna go for the weight loss drug.
No, my runner-up was Kaiser. Kaiser strikes.
All right, so that is story of the week. Let's transition over. Oh, I love a double transition. Who's up? Oh, Good Leads of the Week with Ari.
Yeah,
we haven't done this in a while, I feel like.
Yep. And you guys
excited.
Some of what I would have said as Good Leads of the Week, like the executives getting arrested. Are you kidding me? That never happened.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right to focus on that word because we don't use that word enough in our stories. Arrested.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, here we go. My first story for Good Leads of the Week this week is that Gen Z is not a big fan of beer.
Okay.
And I like that. Way to go, Gen Z. So much so that Molson Coors CEO, Gavin Hattersley, said on Wednesday that the company is developing non-alcoholic offerings as consumers, especially younger people, trend toward health and wellness. Isn't this great?
I mean,
less alcohol sales. That's great.
I know I should expect that a company will pivot and try to make a different product for consumers, but of course my dumb thought was like, why do you have to sell them anything? Why can't they just drink water? Why do you have to create if they're not going to drink beer, fine.
They also sell water, right? Maybe not.
They do? Okay.
Coca-Cola.
I don't buy water. I live in Maine. I don't need to buy water. Yeah.
Here's the crazy thing. Some people do still like to be social, but don't drink.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
So me either. But from what I hear, there are people that exist like that, so they might want to have an alternative option.
I hear you.
Which is wonderful because alcohol can lead to so much disease.
Hey,
I love this.
I applaud the Gen Zs in general because not only that, but they don't seem to be smoking either, really.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
And the French Gen Z only want to fly 4 times in their entire lives.
Right. That's true. Although I will say that when my daughter spent 7th grade public French school, they told her entire class that you're probably going to smoke, but just don't smoke a lot. That's what they told 7th graders.
Everything in moderation.
Exactly.
It's an important lesson to
learn early
on in life. All right. Number 2. A startup's alternative to Uber, employing its own drivers.
I like this.
Isn't that a crazy thought?
I want to hear about this. Tell me about more.
Alto is a Dallas-based transportation startup that was founded in 2018, and it promotes itself as a safer, higher quality version of Uber or Lyft, with drivers who are thoroughly vetted, and they're actually employed by the company and paid hourly. Also, the drivers don't use their own cars. They use the company
Love
cars.
it.
They don't pay for gas. They get healthcare benefits. They get 401k. Like, they're actually employed.
God, I hope this works.
Right? So in 2023, Alto's revenue grew by 30% over the previous year. They are very small in comparison to Uber or Lyft, though. They operate in only 5 major cities right now, and they only have 2,000 drivers.
Oh, all right.
Whereas Uber is in 10,000 cities and has 5 million drivers.
Wow.
10,000 cities.
Wow.
10,000. Yeah. Remember when we thought that 5,000 cities was a lot? Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait, but 5 million drivers. Jeez. But of course, we don't even know how many of those people work full time, right? I mean, that could be like.
Exactly.
I hate that model so much, honestly.
Alto is only trying to compete with like premium Uber or premium Lyft with like the higher end ride hailing business.
For those of us who are old like me, they're basically just reinventing what already existed because
a taxi.
Yeah, when I lived in New York, I either took a taxi or you call a car service, which they would send like a black car to you. It wasn't actually even that much money.
Yeah, but now it has a fancy app.
Exactly. Now it has a fun app. I like apps. I'm good with it.
So, as we've talked about the gig economy, it's taken a lot of heat over the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and if it works or if it just goes bust.
I like this. Cool.
And last but not least, the Fortune 500 adds a second black woman CEO.
What?
Yep.
That is big news.
Science
How did we miss
Applications
this
International.
This week? Wow.
Science Applications International Corporation, or SAIC.
Never heard of it.
Tony Towns Whitley. Whitley? Oh. SAIC is a Virginia-based Fortune 500 technology company that supports government agencies, intelligence services, and the Department of Defense, making Tony Towns Whitley. Oh God, I should look this up.
It's Whitley, I believe.
Whitley, the first African American female to be CEO in national security.
Wow, amazing! That is great.
Yep.
Nice, Tony.
I know. You already clapped.
I know that it's sad that there's only 2 in the Fortune 500, but I'm going to celebrate every single one.
Celebrate where we can.
That gets there. So, those are my 3 for this week.
Good job,
what you guys
Ari.
think?
I was going to do the Uber killer because I hate the business model of Uber and Lyft. But I come on, I got to go for second black woman CEO in the Fortune 500. That to me, that's amazing. And
first one in national security.
National security. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So
Yeah,
I'm definitely voting for that one.
Jesse.
I think I'm frozen.
Jessie looks happily frozen. Maybe she doesn't want to play anymore.
Well, Jesse really likes the
Fortune 500
alternative to beer, so
Fortune 500.
You think that's what she's voting for?
Well, I hear her yelling Fortune 500.
Okay, sounds like she also supports Tony Towns Whitley. We're hoping it's Whitley. There you go. That's our goodliest of the week. Look, before I go, Jesse's back.
I'm here.
Normally, it would be time for As Holiest of the Week. In honor of Matt, I will not play his theme music. I'll just play this. The good news is that I already covered so much As Holy behavior in mine that we're going to very happily skip this category. We're not going to get too much more depressed. We're going to go right over to our money whisperer, Jesse, for exhaustingest of the week. Come on, Jesse.
This does get us depressed, though.
Bunch of exhausting stories for you guys.
Okay. Well, I don't mind being exhausted. I just don't like assholes.
Okay. All right. So, we know that lying happens all the time. It's pretty exhausting to me, but get this headline. Who lies? You guys can answer this question. Who lies on resumes more often? If you had to guess.
Men.
I
Young
saw
white
this.
men.
I saw this article, unfortunately, but I think I would guess actually where Ari landed.
Okay. Well, it's actually high earners and workers with advanced degrees,
Of course.
which surprised me.
Why?
So,
yeah, why?
Because I would have thought people with lesser credentials would feel the need to lie more.
That I get, but why these people? They're just so highly competitive in nature they can't help themselves?
Yeah, I guess.
I just don't get it.
Or do they what scares me more is do they truly believe that they don't really need the credentials and they could tackle anything?
I don't know.
It didn't really go into the motive behind it, but it was a study of 1,900 workers, and as many as 70% of workers say they've lied on resumes, 37% admitting they lie frequently.
Whoa, that's
75% lied on cover letters, and 80% lied during the job interview.
Well, see, the job interview thing, I kind of get a little bit. The resume thing, I don't understand.
I kind of get all of it.
Written on paper, that is fact checking can happen. But during the job interview, especially now with all the behavioral questions, tell me about a time. You might think of saying something instead of that's never
embellishing.
Next.
Yeah. Full disclosure, that first job I was telling you about, I worked in New York I worked in New York at a film subtitling company. It was a Parisian company with offices in New York. I embellished my knowledge of French in my resume because I wasn't expecting to apply to any companies that cared about French. I knew a great deal of French. I could translate a lot of it. I embellished probably my ability to speak it. Let's just say, the woman who interviewed me, who ran the company in America, was Parisian. She asked me about that. I told her that I kind of embellished it, and I was sorry, and she laughed and thought it was the funniest thing. And it was one of the reasons why she hired me is because she thought it was so hilarious that I would fib about my French.
How big was your hair at this point?
We have to go back to that.
I want to see if it helped or hurt you.
At that point, my hair was quite short, actually, quite short.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, stop it. Stop.
Well, I have one more thing to add. I have one more thing to add to this, because what was maybe more surprising and potentially more exhausting to me was this little part of the story that was added in, and it's that apparently the lying goes both ways. 4 in 10 hiring managers admitted to lying to job candidates during the hiring process. And the majority of the lying is about growth and career development. So they're just trying to get you in the door, and they don't really have your
Jesse, how many times have you but how many times have you interviewed for a company, left thinking this place sounds awesome, and then a week into your new job, you're like, wait a minute, this is an absolute shit show. I mean,
for sure. I've gotten bamboozled like that.
Of course.
But what persuaded me about the job was talking to other people that really liked it, despite it being crazy.
Well, you were smart.
We like it here. It's better than where we came from, whatever. So I just
they were paid models.
I'm thinking back on what I read in this article, and I'm like, this is just a pissing contest of I lie, you lie, I lie. What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
And doesn't this mean that when you're polling these 2,000 workers and these managers, aren't some of them probably afraid to admit that they're lying too? So isn't this number actually even higher? Yeah, it's got to be higher.
God.
Okay, all right. Moving on, we're going to...
Yeah, what else you got? Exhaustingest of the week.
We're going to cover the ultra-rich. Here's the headline.
Yeah.
The ultra-rich are not just the worst polluters. Their donations to climate action are also another way of hoarding money and gaming the system. This is pretty depressing. I'm going to read some quotes and statistics from the article because they're kind of shocking. And
get out your graphing calculators.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, we're going to have Ari graph these. So the Climate Works Foundation is who was sponsoring this article. They estimate that charitable giving to fight climate change came in around $7.5 billion last year by the ultra rich.
$7.5 billion. Okay.
Yeah, which sounds like a lot. However,
yeah, sure.
We're talking about the ultra rich here, and it's only 0.5% of the money sitting in private foundations or donor advised funds, and it amounts to only 0.04% of their assets.
Of the 0.04. Oh my God, that is so low. Wow.
And
this is what happens when you like don't tax people in the first place.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. That was one of the points that they were driving home, is like one of the ways. There were a few ways that they outlined that we could remedy this or gain a little bit of money, a little bit more money to put towards fighting climate change. And that was one of them. But there was another statistic that the world's top 125 billionaires, which like to me seems a bit excessive. Like, why do we have this many? An average
of just the top.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Just the top.
There's more than 125 billionaires. An average of 14% of their investments in polluting industries such as fossil fuels and materials like cement. Right. Only one billionaire in the sample of 125 had investments in renewable energy companies.
Is that right?
One billionaire.
Oh, I thought because then the billionaires, they play a good game about pretending to care about the earth, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Only one? That's actually surprises me. Because I'm always like, as I've talked with Matt several times about this issue, I'm always surprised that in general that the energy transfer that we're going through this moment in history, why more people don't see it as an opportunity just to make a lot of cash, right? Yeah. I mean, because we're, like it or not, we seem to be slowly transitioning from oil and coal and gas to other things. It shocks me that these people don't even want to try to make money off of this.
Well, what shocks me is that these people spend so much time and effort and money setting up trusts so that their great grandchildren are all set for life. But if there's no world to live in, I don't know why you're worried about them.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's a great point.
Well, Ari,
like, you're just hoarding money for what?
Yeah, but those are the same people who are either trying to get to Mars, they're dreaming about creating their own like utopian cities or domes, or they're trying to live forever.
They're like buying up all the land they think is going to last the longest.
So I think they have another way out of that, Ari. I think that they think they'll be alive forever and we'll all be dead, I guess.
And so Damien, you pretty much covered it. The way to limit the power of excessively wealthy people is to stop hoarding the excessive wealth, which means we need to tax them and get rid of all of the loopholes that they have found with like armies of lawyers and accountants and advisors and whatnot to keep their money and continue to hoard.
What always scares me about this topic is that in my lifetime, the conservative hero, the big jerk hero in the sky, Ronald Reagan, he was always the great conservative, God. The tax rates under Reagan were way higher than they are now, even under that conservative God. So we have gone in such a bizarre direction in our country. It's crazy with this tax rate.
Okay, you ready
what
for
else?
My last?
Yeah, what else?
Last headline.
I don't feel exhausted yet. You're not killing me with these yet. Yeah,
I do.
Okay. Oh, Ari does. I brought her down a little.
I just gulped a lot of coffee though. So.
Last headline. Women could fill truck driver jobs, but companies won't let them.
Okay, now this I don't like.
I don't want to hear about this.
Yeah,
what
is?
Okay.
This one physically pains me right now.
What's happening here?
So there are, so many trucking companies have complained incessantly about shortages, right? Shortages of drivers. Well, one of the women covered in this article spent $7,000 to go get her license, take the training, get the license, and she cannot find employment. And it's because most of these companies, if not all of them, have same-sex training policies. So they will not hire a woman unless they have another woman that could train her, because the training takes place over a course of a few weeks to a month where you're on the road. And of course,
they're trying to protect the new driver because of the lecherous
they're
men.
trying to protect themselves from sexual harassment claims.
Oh my God, this is terrible. This is terrible.
This is even worse than just
it's worse than I thought.
I thought it was just discrimination on the truck that like women are bad drivers. Oh my God, this is
because we can't protect you from our own kind.
They refuse to address systemic sexual harassment.
Jesse.
And like one of the things I know it's bad. One of the things that was brought up in the article is that here's a way that you could, instead of making them sleep in cabs together, why don't you just reimburse them for a hotel? Like if a man has to be with a woman, and some companies are doing it, they said. But come on. What are get them a motel, get them the cheapest motel, whatever.
But if they're so desperate for these drivers, how would that not be the first thing you would do is just put them up in their own private room?
Totally.
Bizarre.
Because it's a system that's not designed to include
to care.
the entire population.
Absolutely, yeah. So there was
nuts.
Desiree Wood, who is the president and founder of Real Woman in Trucking. It's a nonprofit.
Okay.
She was quoted saying it's frustrating to see that we have not evolved at all when she heard about this. And so her nonprofit has joined. It was the woman that I spoke about, the one that spent $7,000. It's her and 3 other women have brought a lawsuit against one of the trucking companies. It's called Stevens. And so she's going to join them with her nonprofit in the complaint against this trucking company.
This is crazy. You should earmark this for like most exhausting of the year.
Yeah. This is
wild.
Jesse, can I just say that like this is one of the reasons why we want to exist as a company is to like highlight stories like this. So I got to say hats off to the New York Times for caring about stories like this, because, you know, this is what a part of what our ESG industry is all about, especially in this area of corporate governance, is like shining a light on horrible corporate behavior. Because sometimes that is enough to kind of get the ball rolling in the right direction, right? Just letting people know what the hell is going on. Because maybe other trucking companies, I know they will read this article. This is the New York Times, and they see that Stevens, you said, is getting sued.
Stevens, and they were not in our database, so they
but
private.
Maybe this will have a positive domino effect. Let's just hope.
And you know what? This is just bad. Like, not having enough drivers is bad for business. Not being able to trust your drivers that they won't, sexually harass trainees is bad for business.
And not being willing to address it. They're like, we definitely can't address that. Let's
so short-sighted.
Not hire them.
My only problem with this overall, Jesse, my only real problem is that I'm happy when there are fewer trucks on the road. Well, and B, why can't we address the national sickness of needing so many goods shipped constantly? But that's a whole other story.
However,
yeah,
that's different.
They need truckers for food too, Damien.
Sure, disgusting junk food. Yeah.
Let me recap my article.
Yes.
Liars in the corporate interviews and resumes and all of that. Okay, the ultra rich being just continuing to exhaust us with hoarding money, affecting politics, not paying taxes, so on. And women could fill truck driver jobs, but the companies will not hire them.
Oh,
the truck driver jobs just like completely killed me. Yeah, so that's my vote.
That's where my head is taking me. But let me think. Is that exhausting me? I mean, I didn't really know about this. Is that exhausting? Or I mean, I gotta just for the spirit of that one. I guess what does exhaust me is that instead of fixing it, instead of addressing its house and addressing its horrible people that it employs and this horrible culture, they just say no to the women. So that's
because
kind
they
of
don't want to get sued in the future.
So this is like a systemic historical exhaustion. So I'll vote for that one too. Absolutely. So it looks like all of our categories were sweeps this week. So story of the week, SBF trial, goodliest of the week. What was our goodliest of the week? Oh, the Fortune 500 adds a second black woman, Tony Towns Whitley, and exhaustingest of the week, woman could fill truck driver jobs, companies won't let them. That's it. That's all we have for at least for the stories. Do you want to anybody have before we get out of here, anybody have any winners or winners? Who won the week?
Do. Our favorite, corporate parallel thing. The NFL won again. Yep.
Why?
They won the week last week because
they did?
Taylor Swift showed up to a football game.
You said that they won again? Wait, you did twice in a row? You picked the NFL?
I chose them last week.
Oh, jeez. This is depressing.
Yeah. No, they did. They won again. The millions of young women that tuned into the football game on Sunday. I can't even tell you what football game it was. The game to watch.
There's multiple on Sunday.
Little, like, 2-second bits of Taylor Swift. It is really giving them a boost, which is crazy. So.
I saw an article, I think on a Deadspin yesterday, basically saying that this is the first time in NFL history that they have supported a woman. No, really. And really, if you think back, and really, I think partly what they're referencing is just the abhorrent, history of domestic abuse from their players, but also just that it's only been the last year or two that they've even allowed women to hold jobs at some of the, coaching jobs or executive roles, and there's still few and far between. But this is the first time they've ever been nice to a woman, basically. So congratulations, NFL. My winner of the week, I say this with, air quotes. I say this with sarcasm, of course, is
we're going just back here.
Just normal hair. That's the winner. Just like cut your hair, look like a waspy white dude, and you're good. You're good. I know I didn't work at where was it? Science Applications International, SAIC. I guess you didn't have to have normal white guy hair to get a job there, but in general, that's my winner of the week. Normal hair. Jesse?
Right. I have a winner. So Forbes came out, or not Forbes, Fortune came out with their list of the 100 most powerful women, and I decided to check it out. I'm choosing Karen Lynch, CEO of CVS, as the winner because, and this is why, she landed that accolade, #1 most powerful woman. This is her third year in a row being
of winning this.
Wow! And she has terrible performance according to Free Flow Analytics. Her director batting average is .247, and she's landing this accolade 3 years in a row. It is wild.
I saw the same list as well, and I thought it was laughable that Linda Yaccarino,
she made it too, which we know. We could make fun of that. So Karen Lynch, you're doing something right because you're tricking a lot of people.
It is a good point, though, Ari. It does call into question the list in general, right? Because Fortune magazine should know that there's no real power to that job. I mean, she's almost like a laughingstock in a lot of ways.
Right.
Everyone knows.
Like, we should come out worse.
We should dissect this list because it's the 100 most powerful business women, and I would guess
we must cover a lot of them.
Karen Lynch does have power influence on her board. I did check that out. She
does, but not. I'm looking at it right now.
Not an overwhelmingly
it's not
large.
overwhelming. No.
But I should go through that list of 100 and really see what that breakdown is.
According to our data, the next 6 most powerful people on that board are all men. So good luck, Karen. Yeah. Thanks. Predictions. Anyone?
Staying with the healthcare theme here.
Yeah,
I have a prediction for Walgreens, whose CEO and board member Roz Brewer stepped down September 1st or at the end of August. I think they're going to pick a CEO that they already know. So you
mean like a white dude, you mean?
A previous board member or a previous executive at the company that has left.
Ari, what made you think about this? Like, where did this come from? I mean, I like it, but what are you doing here? Are you did you just buy a lot of stock in Walgreens?
Trying to promote them? Yeah. No, it's the reason why Tony Towns Whitley is the second black woman in the Fortune 500 right now is because Roz Brewer stepped down. So there was only one, and now there's 2.
Okay, got it.
And that got me thinking, who's going to replace her? There's an interim CEO right now, but...
Interesting.
But yeah.
Jesse?
I don't have a prediction this week.
My prediction also stays with drugs, Ari, and I don't know if this is like a very nuanced, intelligent prediction, but mine is basically get it while you can. There will be a major health issue that disrupts the weight loss drug market. Like something serious is going to happen, and they're going to take all this off the shelf. But I wrote that. I promise you, I wrote that earlier today at 1:24. This headline came across our newsfeed: weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy come with potentially serious side effects. Study finds. So I promise you, I made my prediction before that study came out. But that's my prediction, and that is the Friday show. for October 6th, 2023.
Yeah. Woo.
Thank you for everything, everybody.
Goodliest for the win.
Thank for Goodliest. We will be off Monday to honor the indigenous people of this great country. We will be off Monday. We will be back Wednesday, and of course, next Friday we'll wrap everything up like we usually do. That's all I have. Does anyone have any plugs? Anyone want to tell what they're doing this weekend? Anyone want to say anything?
I'm going to shake my head no.
Okay. All right. I guess that's it. Thank you. Go enjoy a non-alcoholic beer, and that's it. I don't know. Leave me alone.
And get a haircut.
Yeah, get a haircut.